Hello students, welcome to class of English 2 for class 7. We will be doing chapter 7, the Sherpas. This is an extract. It is an extract taken from the National Geographic by T.R. Reid. Okay, if you remember, there were two people who were the first ones to climb Mount Everest, Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Sherpa. Edmund Hillary was a Norwegian explorer, and Tenzing Sherpa is a Nepali who stays in the foothills of the Everest. Okay, and both of them scaled the Mount Everest on May 29, 1953. So this is a story about the lives of the Sherpas, okay, and how they live their life under the Himalayas and under the Everest. Shall we read? For some strange reason, my vivid stories about walking 5 miles through the snow to get school never seemed to impress my children. So from now on, I am going to tell them instead about Lakpa Sherpa, a student in the high school that Sir Edmund Hillary founded in Khumjung, Nepal. Lakpa hoped to go to college and become a doctor. To ensure that he got there, the 16-year-old would walk 5 hours to school on stony mountain trails each week. In monsoon, I walk in the rain. In winter, I walk in the snow. It's always hard, says Lakpa Sherpa. But then, with the Sherpa's skill for finding the bright side, he would add, going back home is downhill, so it takes only 3 hours. So in the first paragraph itself, okay, the narrator tells us that he could never convince his children about going to school on snow. He used to tell them stories, but they were never convinced. So instead, he tells them about this person called Lakpa Sherpa, who goes to school in Khumjung, okay, a school founded by Sir Edmund Hillary in Nepal. Lakpa wanted to go to college and become a doctor, but then to go to school, he had to travel for 5 hours, okay, and he had to go there in the rain and in the snow, and it was always a hard time for Lakpa Sherpa to go to school. But then the Sherpas have a very positive side to life, so he would always say, coming back is downhill, so it only takes me 3 hours to come back home. Next paragraph. Life would have been much easier if there were a yellow school bus to take Lakpa back and forth. But the fundamental fact of life for the Sherpas, an ethnic group of Buddhists living in northeastern Nepal, is that there is no bus, no car, no bicycle, and not an inch of paved road within the 425 square miles that make up the Khumbu Valley, the Sherpas' traditional home beneath the Mount Everest. The Sherpas in Khumbu go everywhere on foot with their property on their backs or the yaks' backs. So the Sherpas do not have the facility to go anywhere, okay, except on foot. Why? Because of the mountainous region. And the Sherpas, they are actually a community that lives in northeastern Nepal, okay. They follow the Buddhist religion, and most of them, okay, carry their own properties, their own things on their backs or on their yaks' backs. Remember, yaks are those animals that are found in the Himalayas. If after arriving at the tiny airstrip in the nearby village of Lukla, you ask a Sherpa how far it is to the mountain monastery at Tengboche, the answer is not in distance. It's 14 miles, or in altitude it is 3,300 feet higher up, but rather in time. Tengboche, you'll get there on the 4th day. It takes most other people 2 days to trek to the nearby market town of Namche Bazaar, about 6 more days to get to the Everest base camp. So most explorers or most people who are after adventure and after mountaineering, they go to the Everest base camps, but the nearest airport or the nearest place where an aeroplane or a helicopter can drop them off is this place called Lukla, okay. And to go to Tengboche is the Everest base camp, it takes 4 days. And the nearest market, that is called the Namche Bazaar, from Tengboche it takes around 2 days. So imagine walking for 4 days to get to a town or to get to a village, and 2 days to go to the market. So this is how far places are here in the Everest base camp. When a Sherpa family in Khumbu wants to build a new house, much of the structure, from floorboards to corrugated aluminum roofs, must be carried from the lowlands up the rugged trails on somebody's back. So remember, we said that they had to carry their properties on their backs. So even if a person wanted to build a house in the Khumbu Valley, okay, one person will have to carry his own floorboards, that means wood and other aluminum roofs, on their own back up the rugged mountains to reach to the place where they want to build a house. But if walking is a Sherpa's fate, it has also been their fortune. The first ascent of Mount Everest 50 years ago sparked a tourism boom that draws more than 20,000 visitors each year to hike amid the planet's tallest peaks. Strong, congenial, and adept at business, the Sherpas play a role in the tourist trade that is rivaled by few indigenous people in the world. They serve not only as high-altitude porters for mountaineers, but also as guides for the larger number of trekkers who explore the region by hiking at altitudes under 18,000 feet without any technical equipment. So, the Sherpa's fate is walking. That means since there are no cars, no buses to carry them around, they have to walk. But it has also become a fortune, that means a lucky thing for them, because why? 50 years ago in 1953, Mount Everest was scaled, and after that, people have been coming to climb Mount Everest, and it has boosted the tourism industry in Nepal. Each year, they have 20,000 visitors who wants to come and hike not only the Mount Everest, but also the other mountains nearby. And the Sherpas are known to be strong, friendly, and very adjustable to life, okay? And they're good in business. And so, the way they do their business, it cannot be competed by any other people in the world, because they are not only skillful, but they also can climb a high mountain up to 18,000 feet without any technical equipment. They do not need any oxygen gas cylinders on their backs, okay? They are very, very adaptable to the environment. The Sherpas own most of the lodges and hotels and many of the trekking companies, playing out their lives on the world's highest stage, winning friends with their warm smiles and calm competence. The mountain climbing Sherpas have become quite famous. So when we say a Sherpa, or when a person says the word Sherpa, we just automatically understand that these are the people who help other people climb mountains, or they are the ones who can be found near the Himalayas, okay? They're the Nepalis. And they have become very, very famous. Everybody knows who they are. Some scientists believe that Sherpas may be blessed with genetic features that help them thrive 2 miles or more above sea level. Their lifelong adaptation to low oxygen conditions makes it easier for them to survive in the thin Himalayan air. They breathe faster and thus can take in more air per minute than lowlanders. So Sherpas, some scientists believe that the Sherpas are blessed with the ability to survive in a very atmospheric pressure kind of environment, because as we all know, as we go higher up, the oxygen level is it's lower. So here the Sherpas have no problem even if they are 18,000 feet above the sea level, because why? They are very well adapted to that kind of environment compared to the people who live in the plains. On account of their reputation as climbers, the Sherpas are best known of the 30 or so groups that make up the Nepalese population. The word Sherpa is so familiar that it has become a generic term for a porter or a guide. Almost every Sherpa in the trekking business has a story about a client who turned to him and asked, "How long have you been a Sherpa?" And Sherpa isn't just an ethnic identification like other minority groups in Nepal. The Sherpas often use their ethnic name as their last name as well. So here is an open secret, okay, a secret that has been opened, that Sherpas is not just a name that is given to a person who helps in mountain climbing, but it is actually an ethnic group. That means they are a community of people that live in Nepal. And among the other 30 or so groups that live in Nepal, okay, the Sherpas are one community. So it is not a name that is given to them as porters, but it is actually a title that they have, just like we all have titles. Just like that, the Sherpa is also a title. It is a name, okay. So most of the time we confuse the Sherpas to be a kind of a name that is given to a person in business, but it's actually a generic name. It is an identification. Next page. Most of the 70,000 or so Sherpas in Nepal are not involved in the climbing or trekking industries. It's mainly in the Khumbu region that tourism has transformed the Sherpas' lives in a generation. Tourism has made the Sherpas of Khumbu rich. So there are about more Sherpas in Nepal, but then not all of them are in the trekking business. It is just in the Khumbu region. Only those people living in the Khumbu region has a tourism business, but other than that, the rest have another profession or vocation that they follow. My friend, the narrator's friend, Nimu Nuru Sherpa, is one of the thousands of Sherpa success stories. When he was born on a tiny Khumbu farm 8 years before the first ascent of Everest, his family grew potatoes like everybody else. Nima used to say, "You know, raising potatoes is hard work, such hard work, and you don't make much money," Nima would say. But by the time he was a teenager in the late 1960s, getting into the mountaineering business was every Sherpa's boy's dream. "I was a porter. I carried 22 kilos all the way to Camp 2 on Everest, that's 22,000 feet, without oxygen. I was a hotel waiter. I was a cook. I did everything." Tireless, bright, and quick to pick up languages, Nima became a trekking guide with knowledge of English, German, and Japanese. He saved his earnings and rented a house about 200 yards from the airstrip at Lukla, which in 1993 he turned into a successful hotel and restaurant. With a fairly reliable income from the lodge, Nima took the next step on the career path of the upwardly mobile Sherpa. Last autumn, he set up a trekking company of his own in Kathmandu, 125 miles from Khumbu. So here we have Nima Nuru Sherpa, okay, a young boy who went through hard life, okay, as carrying potatoes, okay, a person who carries potatoes to the Everest base camp. As you know, climbing Everest is not that easy. We need to go through certain training, you need to test the weather, sometimes you need to wait out for the storm to pass. So people who live in the camps, they need food. To bring their food, they need the Nepali people to bring their food. So here, Nima used to carry potatoes, 22 kilos of potatoes on his back and climb 22,000 feet without oxygen to provide the people with food. Not only that, he was also a hotel waiter, he was a cook, okay, he did everything. And by the time he grew up, he became very good with English, German, and Japanese languages, which helped him be friendly with tourists. And later on, he became a trekking guide. He rented a house, okay, which turned into a hotel and restaurant. And from there, he took the next step and became a mobile Sherpa. A mobile Sherpa means a person who helps, okay, a person who helps, I mean, not just from one station, but moving place to place. So the narrator says that last autumn, Nima had set up a trekking company of his own. That means he owns a business in Kathmandu, 125 miles from Khumbu. 3 decisive innovations made the Sherpas what they are today, says Ang Rita. The British travelers brought potato plants to the Himalayas in the 19th century, and the Sherpas recognized that this could be a staple crop for the Khumbu climate. In the 20th century, the introduction of iodine wiped out goiter and made an important improvement in public health. And the mountaineers who wanted to climb the highest peaks gave us the foundation of a tourist economy that has produced more wealth than an agriculture or trading ever did. So Ang Rita, okay, says that there were 3 important innovations that made the Sherpas what they are today. That means successful businessmen. Number 1 are the potato plants that were brought by the British, okay, to the Himalayas, and this is one of the way how they can earn money, by planting potatoes and supplying them to the Everest base camp. And other than that, there is an iodine, okay, that is good mineral, all right, which wiped out goiter. Remember, goiter is a kind of disease, okay, kind of a sickness that makes your throat swell. So the introduction of iodine helped the Sherpas, okay, to wipe out goiter, which had been a very good improvement in their health. And the mountaineers, okay, gave them a good foundation to set up tourist business, which helped their economy. The Sherpas began migrating to Darjeeling, India, more than 100 miles east of Khumbu in the 19th century. When the first British mountaineering expeditions head to Mount Everest in the early 20th century, traveling from northeast India through Tibet, because Nepal was closed to foreigners until 1949, they hired strong young Sherpas in Darjeeling to be porters. So this Sherpas, they not only thrived, okay, in the Khumbu Valley, but they also came down to India, Darjeeling, and they started to work as porters, because at that time there were no access to Nepal from India, because it was only through Tibet that we could go to Nepal. But before that, these Sherpas were the ones who were hired as porters, okay, who would carry things for the foreigners. A Sherpa contingent became essential for every climbing expedition. When the British expedition of 1953 became the first to reach the roof of the world, the final assault team comprised one New Zealand climber, Edmund Hillary, and one Sherpa, Tenzing Norgay. Now remember, the roof of the world is Tibet. Yes, so a Sherpa contingent, that means a group of Sherpas, became very important for the British expedition in 1953, because climbing, okay, it's not easy for a person who has never been on the hills. And talk about here, we're talking about cold, snowy, okay, rugged hills. So here, a group of Sherpas were very essential for the British expedition in 1953. And among them were one person named Edmund Hillary from New Zealand. The conquest of the majestic Mount Everest caught the imagination of the world, bringing an unprecedented number of climbers to Khumbu each spring and fall. It also brought the Sherpas a generous and untiring benefactor in the person of Hillary. So when Edmund Hillary, okay, and Sherpa Tenzing Norgay climbed the Mount Everest, when they were successful in climbing Mount Everest, it opened the world to it was like a window that it was open, and where people came each spring and each fall. People came to try or at least be successful in climbing Mount Everest. So it not only brought Sherpas a generous amount of exposure, but it also became a kind of a benefactor in the person of Hillary. That means Edmund Hillary not only opened Mount Everest or Khumbu Valley to the world, but he also became a benefactor. That means he also worked hard for the Sherpas of the Khumbu Valley. To speed up the construction of the hospital in the village of Kunde, Hillary oversaw the construction of the airstrip on a dramatic mountainside in Lukla, a runway that has had the unintended result of fueling the massive tourist trade. So Edmund Hillary not only set up a school, okay, in Kunjung, but then he also set up a hospital in Kunde. Okay, and at the same time he saw the construction of the airstrip, okay, a place where airplanes or helicopters can land, construction of the airstrip in the mountainside in Lukla. Quickly, each of Khumbu's 25,000 foot plus peaks was climbed, with the Sherpas playing a central role in the expeditions. Even more crucial to the Khumbu economy was the development of the trekking industry, in which the Sherpas led tourists on week-long hikes. So apart from Mount Everest, there are other 25,000 foot plus peaks. Okay, so there are many other peaks that are very high. Okay, and the tourists, they come and try to hike in those mountains. And who helped them? The Sherpas helped them in all these expeditions. Only 10,000 or so Sherpas remain in Solu Khumbu. The rest have scattered to towns and villages across northeastern Nepal and India. Thousands now live in Kathmandu, where most of Nepal's trekking and climbing agencies are headquartered. Farther afield, there's the Sherpa rock band in New York City, the Sherpa restaurant in Tokyo's Shibuya district, and Sherpa hiking guides in mountain resort areas all over the world. So the Sherpas not only remained in Khumbu Valley, but then they spread out, okay? About only 10,000 people live in the Khumbu Valley, but the rest have gone to towns and villages and other cities like New York, other countries like Japan, where they set up restaurants, and also not only that, they have a rock band, and they also serve as hiking guides to other mountain resorts all over the world. In Khumbu, the old way still persists in many aspects of a Sherpa's daily life. Their washing machine is the rushing river, their dryer is the sun. The kids use round pebbles as marbles and play catch with potatoes. With rocks and branches, the Sherpa farmers construct diversion channels beside mountain streams to drive the water wheels that grind their grain into flour. The same streams are used to spin the prayer wheels that dot the Sherpa country. In Khumbu, says Angrita, our traditions are maintained. So, if most of the Sherpas have gone out into the world, what has happened to the rest who remained? To the few 10,000 who are still in the Khumbu Valley? Life is still the same. It has not changed, okay? Their washing machine is the river, all right? Their dryer is the sun. The children play with stones, small round stones, okay? And they play catch with potatoes. No ball, no football, so their only recreation is playing catch with potatoes. And then to provide water, okay, into their homes, they use a diversion channel using rocks and branches. That means blocking the course of the rivers and course of the stream. They drive water wheels that grain their flour, okay. So they use water energy to grind their flour, and then the same stream, the same waterways are used to spin their prayer wheels. So Angrita says that our traditions are still maintained. That means we have not deviated from any of our traditions. On the steep, rock-strewn mountain trails of the Sherpa land, new mothers still walk with farmers, yak herders, mail carriers, great-grandmothers, and exhausted, sweating porters bent low under the weight of cargo on their backs. So till now, there is no vehicle, there is no transport system to carry the people of the Khumbu Valley. They still walk, okay, with the things on their backs to go to places. The Sherpas have brought all manner of innovations up the mountain trails. So why is there no room in Khumbu for the automobile or the roads that it could drive on? I posed that question to almost every Sherpa I met. The consensus view is that roadlessness is an essential element of the Sherpa condition. If we rode a bus in Khumbu, would we still feel the steepness of our mountains? Asked Nima Nuru Sherpa. Would we still hear the waterfalls coming down our cliffs? Would we stop and say a prayer when we passed a Mani stone? So the Sherpas, okay, even though there are so many innovations that have come, tourism is booming industry in the valleys. So why is there no vehicle? Why is there no roads that are constructed? So most of the people in the Khumbu valleys, is like Angrita and Nima Nuru Sherpa says that, well, if there is a road, then it will change everything. It will change the originality, the authenticity of our our traditions and our customs. So it is better that there is no road, because we will never forget the steepness of the mountains. We will never forget the waterfalls and how the sound of the waterfalls coming down from the cliffs, and we would have never stopped to pray near a prayer stone. So this is all about the Sherpas. I hope you understand. Thank you.